recorded the solo one, I was talking about like when did I stop being courageous?
Life.
And that's what I
Trauma.
said. I literally just recorded it. I said it was life and trauma.
Life and trauma.
I just said that. Lord have mercy.
That'll
do it.
That'll do it. Every time.
That'll do it. What's up, and welcome to another episode of the House of Jazz podcast. Now listen, just like anybody else's house, I know y'all got house rules. So in the House of Jazz, rule number 1 is choose you and watch everything else choose you too. Now, a lot of things that we talk about are going to be self-centered. I hate saying that, but it sounds so bad. But it's going to be centered around self, meaning self-worth, self-love. We're going to give some self-development and things of that nature, because I truly believe that anything that you do for anybody else or anything else, that you can't do it unless you first do it for yourself. So that's the first rule. Choose you and watch everything else choose you too. Rule number 2 is revert back to rule number 1. Now, if we did have a rule number 3, rule number 3 would be based off of the fact that I grew up in the South. And down in the South, my mama said, what goes on in my house, stay in my house. But that's the opposite in the House of Jazz. See, everything in the House of Jazz, I want you to go tell people. Go tell the people what we talked about in the House of Jazz. Go tell the people what happened in the House of Jazz, because I want this to be a platform where you feel comfortable, where you feel heard, where you feel seen, and also where you feel like we can shift perspectives. We're not always going to think the same, but what we can do is see a different perspective so that we can understand one another on a different level, on a better level, so that we can be and build community. All right, so those are the house rules. And today I am super excited that I told her before, I said, I'm out here like fangirling for real. Today we have a special guest, and I'm gonna let her really introduce herself, but I'm just gonna introduce her as Fhonia Ellis. So, and she'll give you the background, but welcome, Fhi, to the House of Jazz. What's up, girl?
Hey, girl.
I'm so happy
glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Thanks for
excited.
coming. I'm super excited too.
Yes,
I think this is about to be good.
it is. It's gonna be past good.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Great and amazing.
Yeah.
Sophie,
Yeah.
tell them, who are you? What do you do? Give us some background.
So a little background on me. I go by Fhi. My real name is Fhonia Ellis.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It means God's love and sunrise.
Come on now.
So I am a fashion designer, tailor. Have been doing that professionally for 12 years. So I have been sewing for, since I was 14. End up getting into entertainment around like 2010. So I used to work for BET, MTV, all that stuff.
Run it down, girl. Run it down.
It's a whole, yeah. So I started there as an intern. They told me if I moved to New York, they'd give me a job. So I packed up my stuff and I left and went to New York. And so that's where I started my career, was for 106 in Park as an intern, and then I turned into the tailor there. And so that is, kind of what led me back to Atlanta. And everybody that you probably see on the carpet, I think they've been touched by Fhi a little bit.
I love it.
Yeah,
so we got into the face thing real quick.
One thing we should know about me is my whole life is faith. It looks great. It's glamorous. It's cute for the gram, but I am real clear on how I got here and what it is. You know what I mean? So like, I did not ever want to sew. It was something that was always just, passed down to me. And like I literally moved to New York with $5,000 because I sold a car and didn't know where I was gonna live, but it was like, it's time for you to go. So
you know what, Fhi? One thing, and we got to talk about this too, because I was like, when I tell my sister, and I'm gonna talk about my sister a lot. When I tell my sister, I was like, I don't even know how me and Fee like connected, but
Right. Random.
random, very.
Very random.
And one thing that I can really say, even if you go down your page or if you follow you in your stories, you feel the faith.
Yeah, I
You
love
feel
God.
the anointing.
Like, look at
You
me. I'm
feel
like,
it,
I love
baby.
God. I'm not even
You
playing.
feel it. And it's not like,
Yeah.
you know how some people are like pushing it down your throat.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's not that. It's just that this is who I am.
This is who I am. Yeah.
This is my being.
Yeah.
And you can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the fact that we started this whole thing off talking about faith. Didn't know what I was supposed to be doing or how it was gonna happen,
Yeah.
but some said go and I went on faith.
And I think like because again, I was the girl. I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? So, little backstory, even how my relationship with God was established. Of course, we all grew up in church. That whole thing.
Yeah.
That's not where I found God. I found God because someone trigger fingered me in the club because my dad sold them bad dope, right?
Oh wow.
So that's what led me into the hands of God because I was paranoid. I was very. I thought something was really, really wrong. I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
Okay.
So because of that, that is when all of a sudden my life shifted at 22. So from 22, I was very convinced that like, yeah, I'm a roll with.
I'm a roll with
God.
Big G.
Big G.
Big G over here.
G-O-D, right? Because I was suicidal. I tried to commit suicide. I had went through a lot of different things, and I don't even know how. But again, we here.
Yeah, we
right?
here.
So I had went through a lot of different things. I was still into fashion, still sewing, but again, my dad was in the lifestyle, and he, sold someone some bad drugs. They saw me out of the club and was like, "Got you," and it literally triggered something in my brain, like, what? You know what I mean? So it was like it got to the point like I couldn't even take a shower because my body was like rid with paranoia.
Yeah.
And my mother's no longer living now, but at the time I called her and I was like, Ma, she said, what's wrong? Get to my house now. Like she instantly heard it in my voice. And I watched God literally, it was almost like if one voice was on one end, one voice was on the other end, like telling me all this negative stuff, and then God was like, just keep going, just keep going. That voice stayed ringing in my head for 7 days, and I cried out to God, like, if you get me out of this, like for real, if you get me out of this, I will never ever like go back. And I didn't come out immediately, but when I did come out, I was fully persuaded at that time, like this is it, you know. Down to, even when people see like the celebrity things and all that, it's something that I take to God. God downloads them in dreams, like down to 50 Cent. I seen him in a dream one day, wrote his name down, kept it moving. I don't know when it's coming. You know what I mean? So this gift I know for sure is from God. This calling I do know for sure is from God. So I think, like I said, once that situation happened, it was like, I don't have anything else but God. You know what I mean? Then especially after losing my mom, all those different things, I was like, God, it really is just me and you out here.
Yeah.
And so everything people see, whether it's celebrity, this is that, it is just a manifestation of like me just like fully persuaded that God is my all, right?
Wow.
So yeah.
That's good, Fee.
Yeah.
That's good. And one thing I know, I've heard somebody joke, especially when it comes to like women, if you want to see a woman go after God, let something traumatic happen to her, especially if it's like a relationship or something like that. But I've heard a lot of successful women who, when they're being totally honest or transparent, they've gone through something traumatic.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Yeah.
That has said, this only me and God.
Yeah.
Because you really feel like you can't trust anybody.
Yeah.
And you know that there is a way or something that needs to be done, but the only way you can get it is through God. Because I know I've experienced that as of recently. Like, there's a certain peace that I need, that I'm craving, that I want, and that I believe and desire to have. But I know there's nothing else that I know that I can touch, feel, get to today or tomorrow that I feel like can give me that peace that I'm looking for. So I know it only has to be God.
And the thing about it, I think so I think we are such a society that tries to go outside of God to get peace and joy. You want to go to energy healing, you want to go to this, you want to go to that, you want to go to that. you could still go there and don't have no peace.
Mm-hmm.
You can have peace for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
but God has said, I'm trying to give you peace for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. And so, again, don't get me wrong. Like again, when we talk about trauma, trauma led me away from God. I've lost, and again, somebody who was fully like a believer. But when you experience so much trauma, there were parts of me that I didn't feel like I could take to God no more, because I felt so broken in my grief. Since my mother had passed away, we had maybe 3 killings, not just murders, people dying every year for the last 12 years.
Oh, wow.
So you're talking about somebody who has literally been through a just whirlwind of grief, right? You know what I'm saying? Me and my stepfather have patched things up now, but when my mother died, I lost 2 parents because he left. No more relationship. This man raised me.
Yeah.
So you're putting trauma on trauma, where it was like, God, I love you. And then my thing is, like, when my mother was, fighting cancer, I fasted, did all that, and God told me she was going to be healed, but not on this side. So when she died, oh wait, we got beef now. You didn't tell me that.
You didn't tell me.
But again, I'm never going to be disrespectful, but my heart was not there where it used to be.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, and then again, we live in a culture where New Age is, all, that's where we're at. Let's go here. Let's clear your chakras. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Let me tell you something. God let me do everything I wanted to do. Now, he didn't let me go too far.
Yeah.
Down to like when I was grieving so much, I would, let me talk to, people that can talk to the people that's on the other side, because that grief had me so crippled that I just wanted to know my mother was okay.
Yeah.
And I would always pray about it before I did anything. Like, God, I know I probably ain't, and I felt like God let me go hang out with people I wanted to go hang out with, go do what I wanted to go do, just so I could see that I still wasn't fulfilled in those things. And so what I realized is that those things gave me peace and joy for a moment, but they did not give it to me for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And the peace that I have now, the joy that I experience now, is something that the world didn't give it to me, because I went out there and tried to get it, and they didn't give it to me, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people, it's like, you can do all that, but at the core of you, you are desiring something from God that you don't know how to get, or you perceive you don't know how to get. But really, it's just you surrendering, and that's the problem we have, is we don't want to surrender.
Girl.
Right? So
come on, Fhi.
I mean, because I'm living it now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because I'm just now getting like, dang, God, I was searching. And what I had to realize, I had to surrender. So, you mentioned we was talking about the soft life. So I think how we really got, like, we met at Marcus's thing last year.
Okay.
I think that's how we start following each other. But all of a sudden, something came down my page that you were posting.
Yeah.
And and you remember I sent you that message, right? And so anytime, like, I could just be on, but if God says something and when it keeps bothering me, because I didn't go tell you what I heard, that's when I was like, man, I don't even know her business. I don't know that girl business. Let me tell her something about, but speaking like a husband is coming to you, right? You are going to be remarried. You are going to, like, so then when I did it, I'm like, I don't know nothing about her situation. So when we had the exchange, and then we started talking about the soft life, like, even at that point when I mentioned it to you, it wasn't, I hadn't had the full download of what God was trying to give me with that.
Yeah.
See, I was still thinking about, like, worldly, like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have the soft life with God. I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
And after we messaged last week about it, I was like, God, so yeah, what did you really mean about that? Having the soft life is a life of full surrenderance.
Girl, hold that right there, because I want to catch them up to speed to what we're actually talking about. So what had happened was, I think we were talking about some supplements, some nutrition, y'all.
Yeah.
We talked about nutrition because I am a part of a gym, and my trainer actually has a nutrition line. And so Fhi was asking me some things about that. And how, for whatever reason, we don't even know. I have to go back and look at the messages, girl, because I don't know. But she sent me a message. She had a download. She started talking to me about it, and I was telling her about it, and I was receptive to it. And let me say something. Let me be clear. I don't listen to everybody. Okay, if there is this, for lack of a better way of explaining, there is this feeling that you have or that you get when you know someone or something is safe. So that's another thing about you, Fhi. You feel really, really safe.
Oh, don't make me get that tear. I'm okay.
you feel no, seriously, you feel really, really safe. And so you told me what happened, and it aligned to something that had just like happened to me. So what had happened was I was talking about how I wanted to be, or I desired to be, a kept woman. And how that came about was I'm going through a transition, going through a divorce right now, all those things. And I was watching TikTok one day, and I was on TikTok, and there was this lady, and she was just talking about how she talks about how her husband, African-American man, makes really good money, loves being a husband, loves being her husband. And she just talks about being kept all the time. And she just talks about how, there are certain things about parenthood that she doesn't understand because her husband never allowed for that to happen. Right?
Okay.
And so she said a lady in her comments one day said, "You're not a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife." She said, "You're a kept woman." And so the things that she was talking about, I was like, "God, I want to be a kept woman too."
So you can sign me up.
Okay. Be the kept woman. She was like, she didn't have to worry about anything.
Right. Yeah.
She just went down all the characteristics. And she said, "This is the life that I know, and I'm not going to stop talking about it." And so a lot of people felt like she was arrogant about it. But I'm like, we talk about everything else that this
why
lady
can't
live.
we talk about it? Yeah.
And so with listening to that TikTok, I was getting some floors laid in my home. And I had to get some things moved around, and I had asked my husband at the time, like, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do?" None of the stuff got done. And I had a VIP client that day that I was meeting, a one-on-one client that day. And I had Jim, per usual. I had the kids, so I had to figure out how I was going to get to the gym, get the kids dropped off. I didn't need them to come with me. I think they were out of school or something. And then as everything was happening, my sister called, like, "Hey, bring the boys over here. I got them. You go handle your client." A guy that I used to work with, he had some of the dry erase markers and things that I needed. And he also helped me walk me through how to turn off the gas in my stove. It was just these little small things. And then my sister's cousin gave me some tools that I needed to do some other stuff, to take some other stuff off, to move it around. And I got stuff moved.
Right.
And as everything was unfolded, and then I didn't have anywhere to house my VIP client. And then one of my friends reached out, was like, "Hey, you could use my place to house your VIP client." And so I went from not having a space, not being able to have anybody to help me move this stuff around, not knowing how to turn this gas off on the stove, and these people about to come lay my floors, like all of that stuff happened. And as everything unfolded and it was working out, I'm getting in the shower, and I could remember distinctively hearing God say, "But you are kept."
Yeah.
But you are kept. And so that's what I was telling Fhi about.
Yeah.
And then that's when Fhi came to me with what she came to me about.
And like I said, I went all day because you came down my timeline with something, and I heard it, and then I went on, and I was like, and then all day it kept like, "Go send her a message, go ahead," and I was like, yeah. And again, do I have the ability when I hear God? Yes, right. But I'm always hesitant to go give those messages because I'm like, again, I ain't trying to God, I don't gotta do all that, right?
Yeah.
I keep it moving.
Yeah.
But when I know it's like keeps coming to me, yes, then I have to. So again, I didn't even know all this that was going on before I even gave you that message, right? So, and just hearing you talk about it now, like, you are kept. I think sometimes for me, if I think about it and just being honest, like, again, when I think about kept, like, yeah, God, I want it to look like this. I want it to appear to look like something. But when you just said, God said, "But you are kept," that means because it may not have come strictly through a man yet, but everywhere in your life, I'm going to keep you. If you need to go here, if you need somebody to come and fix this, I'm keeping you. I'm coveting with you until that man comes in and I bring him back into your life. So you are kept. But I think, again, we get so fixated, like, "Oh, I just want a man to do it." And God is like, "No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you that I'll provide everything you need. I'm going to show you that whatever needs to get done with your kids, your house, again, if you needed food, somebody is going to bring these things to you.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we are kept. We have to surrender to the being kept up.
Right.
And not keep trying to pick it up
Right.
every time we put it down.
Right.
Like, okay, God, I'm giving it to you today, but I'm going to take it tomorrow.
Right.
No, I'm going to just give it to you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something we have to do every day, is literally relinquish that control.
Right.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
that's what that soft life
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Because you said something in that conversation like, I've just decided that if I really want to experience this soft life,
I have to experience with God first.
Child. And when you said that, I
Because
almost
how
threw
can
my
I,
phone.
you know, because sometimes, like I said, for me, it's like, yes, a man can come and give it to you, but then you might almost feel entitled, right? Because like, oh, this is what there's an entitlement, and that comes with ego and arrogance. So it's like, if God shows me how to have the soft life, then when my husband comes, then I can submit under his authority. Ooh. Right? But I got to know how to do that with God first before I can do that with a man, because if I can't do it with God, I ain't gonna be able to do it with a man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, because I think in society, it's like, we be like, oh, it's like, but you can't even submit to God. How you going to submit to your husband? I had a man tell me that, you know, someone that I was talking to is a friend. He was like, and he said this to me just the other, like last week or the week before. He was like, because I did something. He said, oh, you was disobedient. And I said,
wait a minute now.
He was, but I had never had a man call me out like that, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, delayed disobedience is still disobedience. He says, so my thing is, if God tells you to do something as my wife and you don't do it, you're then jeopardizing our household because you don't know how to be obedient to God. So when God tells you to do something, why would you delay it? I said, okay.
Sure.
I said, well, and then God literally showed me right in there. He said, so you say you want a godly man. That's what one that not only sees something in you, but is really firm on who I am. That's how he's going to call you to the table. You can't be offended by that. But we keep saying, oh, I want a godly man. No, you want something that looks like a godly man. Because a godly man is going to call you to your rightful place. Right? And so when that correction came, I was like, oh,
wait a minute.
Who are you talking to? You know who I am? And I had to say, okay, let me come down. Okay. Because I had to think about it. It's like, if I'm having trouble submitting to God, then I'm going to have trouble submitting to who my man is, right? Not a man, but my man.
Exactly.
Okay, my man. Right? So I said, but that was a lesson learned. So I'm like, oh, he's right. I got to be obedient to whatever God tells me to do, even if that's not my man, because I don't know. But the word that he's giving me is like, you keep saying you want something. You got to do this with God first so that it comes second nature to when it does come. Right? So, yeah.
You know, some women going to hear this and be like, if that's not your man, that's not your husband. What he talking about being obedient? But I think in situations and scenarios like that, we have to know when God is still showing us.
And you have to know someone by their fruits. So when he said, and again, it's easy for a woman to say that, and I would have to petition her if she's that, if her flesh flares up or ego flares up, then it's something with her, not him. I'm just being honest.
Ooh, Fhi, elaborate.
Meaning that if someone says something to you and you feel offended, it's not that they said something wrong, it's that you took offense. So you should probably go check yourself and see why you was offended to that and go get to the root of the offense. And I'm only speaking for myself because I've done this with myself. So even when he was having this conversation with me, the conversation we were also having is because I was giving him a little pushback on the phone. Like, he asked me to do something. And I was like, I don't think I got to really do all that. He said, and again, I knew the fruit of a man. So again, as I'm walking with God, and if he starts talking about stuff with God, I know off top if you're really walking with God or not. This is just a show. But I could tell by his fruit. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
Cool. Like he a little bit more spiritual than me. You know? And so I was giving him pushback, and he said, can I ask you something? Why are you giving me so much pushback? I asked you to do something, and you kind of he said, but then you asked me to do something. I immediately did it. I didn't say nothing. I did it to better our conversation. I asked you to do something to better our conversation. You giving me pushback, but in my spirit, I felt pushback, and I heard God tell me, stop. Because again, even when God is trying to send us something that we've never had, because we've never had it, we don't know how to adjust. We don't know how to receive it. So in that moment, again, might not be my man, but in a moment, I can be astute and present to when someone is trying to teach me
Exactly.
something. I
Exactly.
do not know everything, right? So if I do want my husband and all these different things, I don't even know how to take someone just giving some advice
Yeah.
or giving me something that's actually going to make me better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when he was saying this stuff, and I apologized in the conversation. I said, you know what? I am giving you pushback, and I feel it. And the reason why I'm giving you pushback is why? Because something that happened in that last relationship. So again, I say if someone is offended by something, it's because you got something lingering and some residue somewhere, right? You should not be that easily offended if someone says something. It's because you have something you still need to deal with within your heart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I can see that. And a lot of times people just stop at the fact that I'm offended and they don't go and examine.
Yeah.
They don't go and reflect and say, but why
is that offending me?
Yeah.
And I think for me, anytime I feel a flare of something, it's like, why I feel like that? Where did that come from? Let me go investigate that, because I don't want to be weighted by anything. I don't want to have any offenses.
Oh Lord, Fhi, I don't want to be weighted by any. That's
No.
another thing. Get the weight up off me.
Listen.
I'm so sick of being weighed down.
But who told you to be weighted?
Girl, I'm about to throw my phone. And that's another. That leads me to this other thing. So there was this principal at the second school that I taught at here in Atlanta. And for whatever reason, the first year he was there, he left my first year, like in the middle of my first year. I think they got rid of him. I don't know why. But this man was very, very spiritual, very anointed. You could tell, like a real God-fearing man. And I know so after he left, I think I ended up getting his contact because I went full-time entrepreneur in like 2019. Then COVID hit. And then I got scared because I was running out of my little nest egg. And I was like, let me go back into the classroom. And one of the teachers that I used to work with was still close with him. And he had another school out in, I think, Douglasville or something like that. And he was hiring. And that's how I ended up getting his contact. And I went out for an interview. The position ended up not being for me. But this man would send me, still to this day, what I call random. Send me scriptures or devotionals or something. And when I say it's always at the right time, it's always faith or God based. And there's only a couple people that know that this man does this because I told my sister. And like every time it happens, I have to, because it's so crazy how it happens. I have to screenshot it and send it to my sister. Like, look what just happened.
Look what he just sent to me.
My God.
Yeah.
So one day he asked, he was like, something's telling me I need to meet with you. Now let me say this, because a lot of people are like, oh, you know.
Right.
No, when I tell you, and I'm gonna tell you why I knew it was something that needed to happen. But we end up meeting at a Starbucks. And one of the main things that came from that conversation is two things came. One thing he said is, you feel so heavy because you keep trying to do. When one of God's main things for you to do is to be.
Absolutely.
And that's be in covenant with him.
Yeah.
That is to be and believe him.
Yeah.
And believe and trust in him. And he showed it to me in scripture.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. And here's so two things with that. A lot of our suffering is at our own hands.
Yeah.
A lot of our suffering and agony, heavy-hearted, is at our own hands because we are trying to be the one to figure it all out.
Yeah.
When God says, cast your cares onto me. You know what I'm saying? My yoke is light, right? But we just read a thing, but we don't become a thing. And that's what God started, telling me, like, you have to become the scripture. You have to really read what I'm saying. And I was reading yesterday, and when I tell you, that thing jumped up off that page, and it was so good to me. I said, God, but I needed fresh eyes. I needed fresh eyes to see the word, and it was literally like medicine to my soul when I was reading. And I realized it's like, you are heavy-hearted, you're all these different things because you are feeling like you're trying to control it all. Again, talk about the soft life. It's me relinquishing every single day. If I got to do it multiple times a day, you know what I mean? I think yesterday I did about 3 times because it's like, nope, I can't I got to let it go. Got to let it go. And so it's like, we have to just get comfortable with believing that God is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl, it was that. And then it was something else that you said that he also mentioned. He said, I notice you keep saying, I feel, I feel, I feel. He said, did you ever validate what you're feeling with the scripture, with the word? And I was like, sir. And then I had to be honest with myself. Like, I grew up in the church and all that, and I listened to the pastors, and I knew a couple scripture, but I never knew it really for myself. This man set me on a path to being like, okay, so I feel this. What does the Bible say about that?
Yeah. No, that's the truth.
What does the word say about that?
And the reason why, and for me, again, I say all this, and I can say it because I had to live it. I had to go through it. The reason why so many people are getting attacked because you don't have enough word in you. You go to church on Sunday, but you don't have word in you. Just going to church on Sunday and hearing what the pastor said is not going to help you go out here and fight in life.
Yeah, my pastor say Sunday and enough.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. You have to actually get the word in you to sustain you, to help you get through life, right? And if you don't have it, soon as something hits you, soon as fiery darts hit you, you're going to start panicking. You're going to start getting overwhelmed. You're going to shut down. You're going to spiral.
Baby,
because you don't have nothing to sustain you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let me call them. No, if you get that word in you, it will sustain you. You got to keep calling everybody. What are they going to do?
Baby, that's what I've realized.
They don't do. They just talking. You're just talking.
You know, one way I've started to like release a lot of weight. Baby, what am I going to do? Yeah. I can't do nothing.
I can only control what I can control.
Right.
Everything else is out of my control.
Right. But it's a challenge now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It is not easy. It has been the hardest thing. But I believe that God keeps putting me in these challenging, or what I think, challenging situations to let me know you ain't got no control.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And I think it's like, so again, I talked about the sabbatical briefly before we got on. You know, for the last 8 months, I had been going through a real like deep healing journey because I was just ready to rid myself of anything that looked familiar to my old life, my old self, my old being, right? I want to be unrecognizable. If people knew me 15 years from ago, they'd be like, that is not the same girl. There's no way. I smoked, I drank, I fought, I did everything that you could. Oh, baby. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, all like people see me now, they be like, oh, she is saved. I was not always saved. I came from a fighting family, fought all the time, like could have been in jail multiple times. Smoked every single day, drunk, like just all type of things, right? But I also knew deep down inside that there was something like, there was just a feeling like I'm not like everybody else. And so again, life me and led me to God, and then I got saved, and then that was, but I took this sabbatical here recently because over the last 8 months I was going deep down into the root of my trauma. I had took on a spirit of grief after my mom. I was very paralyzed. But I was still moving. People see me doing that. But what people saw was probably 15 to 20% of my capacity. That I can do this with my eyes closed, right? But I literally had took on so much grief in my heart that it was like I still was aging, but still was stuck at 27. Meaning when my mom passed, my emotions, everything about me still was like, I don't understand, but okay, I got to go to work tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So the last 8 months after, I was in a relationship, last year, but after that relationship kind of ended, I was like, yeah, so I got to get to the root of why I keep choosing what I choose. And even that relationship, God told me, you chose him out of your inadequacies. So go deal with your inadequacies, right? I had to go sit and deal inadequacy by inadequacy. What am I dealing with? Where is my confidence? Where is my self-esteem? Why do I choose? And it all was rooted because I didn't believe I was enough, right? And so I kept choosing not just men, friends, clients, this, because it was validating me. My career had become a validation of my confidence that I needed to go get some healing on.
Oh, Lord.
So the last 4 months, After something happened with work, at that point I started being more advocating for myself, because the thing about when you are unsure about yourself, you will let people treat you however you want, how you let them
Baby,
treat you.
listen, yes.
You know, and because it's like, oh, you working with celebrities, let me just go do what they want. But you know, you're disrespecting me. See, I know who I am in God, you don't, and you are disrespecting me.
Yeah.
And I got tired, and so the end of January, I said, you need to sit down before you spiral. I needed to go sit down with God all the way. And it wasn't even like intentionally. Then I just started seeing everything get disrupted. Everything. Clients, my money. You go from making a lot of money every month to nothing for 4 months.
Baby, I'm in month 6.
It was crazy. And I remember I had to go speak at a conference in March. I said, now, so you want me to go talk? You're going to have to fix the situation.
Yeah.
Before I go be telling anybody anything.
Yeah.
And God still didn't fix it. But what he showed me in that was, it's time for you to go to possess the land, but you have to have favorable departures. Meaning that the things that I'm taking out of your life is a favorable departure for your elevation. When you are in school, you have to elevate to the next. When you finish elementary, where you go to middle. When you finish middle, you go to high. There's a departure, a favorable departure in every season of your life. You deem this as something I'm taking away from you, and I'm trying to excel you. You cannot take these things with you, even if they look good, even if they pay you well. They are not good for my soul.
See, girl, you know what? That's so good.
They wasn't good for my soul.
That's so good.
They kept me burdened. They kept me in anxiety. They kept me in stress. They kept me doubting myself. It kept me conducive to what I was producing. But I'm not just my gift. So they loved my gift, but they was killing the person. So God was like, I'm going to live. When I say everything got disrupted, everything. Every client I had problems with me. Like, it was like, how everybody got a problem today.
Baby,
Everybody.
listen.
And when I seen that, I said, and God kept reminding, it is favorable departures. I have to de-weight you so that you can go to the next phase. So you got to, and this is what he also showed me. Everything that you idolize, I'm taking. You've made all of this idols. Your work, them friends, this, that.
Ooh, Lord.
I don't want any idols, so that in the next season, you know for sure it was nothing but me.
Girl, I swear, you are like speaking my life.
Like, everything got stripped
right now. Then that's how I feel.
Yeah, everything.
That is how I feel.
My mind. I was when I thought I was going crazy. Like, it was literally, I was like, God, I am losing my mind.
That's how
But what I
feel.
realized was God was literally stripping everything, so that when everything left, I was for sure who God was. I was for sure. Like, there was no doubt in my mind. There was none of that, because now I know for a fact God is the one that gave it, and God is the one that can take it. Nobody can take nothing from you. Nobody can. They didn't give it to you. Nobody can blackball you. Nobody can. They don't even have the authority or the capacity to do that when you're a child of God.
Facts.
You can't even do nothing to me if you want to. I laugh at people when they think they trying to do something to me. Yeah. I was like, 'cause see, you really don't, like, I'm real, like, for real about God.
Yeah.
You can't do nothing to me if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm always going to win.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be on top.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But again, you get in the world and it starts to validate you. You start to, it feeds your ego. It's doing all the things to me, right? I'm traveling. I'm with this celebrity. I'm with that. But at the end of the day, God was like, okay. And the real reason I feel like God stripped me was because this season of my life, well, what we're doing right now, it's time for me to go there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The season that was to get me to here. But if you're so conditioned with this, you'll never go to that. If you just love this so much, I can't never take you over here.
Right.
And at this season of my life, God knows, like, that's cool, that's cute, but it's not changing people's lives really. It's not making an impact. It's not getting people closer to Christ. It's not getting people closer to, like, soul fulfilling. You're fulfilling yourself with things to your flesh, but you're going to rot in hell in a minute.
Yeah.
In your own personal hell.
Yeah.
With all of your stuff.
Yeah. That's good.
That don't work for me no more. You know what I mean? So it's like, now it's like there was favorable departures in those things. And they needed to happen. Out of all the money we talking about, I know I was making at least on the low end $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
See, that's on the low end. I said, Jesus,
How you?
where my money at? You know? And then it all just goes away.
Yeah.
And I was driving the other day. I said, God, but I regret none of it.
Mm.
Because my mind.
But see, that's where I gotta get, Fee.
Oh, I regret none of it.
That's where I gotta get.
Because the peace.
Mm-hmm. That's where I gotta get, because for me, I'm still battling it.
And you know what God told me? He told me this when my mother passed. And I think about it all the time. Forget who you think you are, but so that you can become who you know you are.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get to the point where, because you can have all that, but you're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
You're not satisfied. You still go home crying. You still go home like, God, this, that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You got to get to the place that if you take it all and I have nothing, then I got to be okay with that too. That you still Jazz, that you still the woman of God, that you still chosen, that you still gonna be out here changing people's lives. Because what you do and who you are is two different things. You make money with what you do, not who you are.
Yeah. See, when I tell you are speaking
Yeah.
my life, and I told my sister the other day, I said, I don't know what type of conversation I just had with God, but I just told him, if you are taking everything, take it.
Let him take it.
Take it. Because I just don't understand. Like, I went from traveling, doing things that I love to do when it came to like my social media business. I was with one of my friends and working for them, and I'm meeting them in all these circles. And at my 9 to 5, I thought the first time I would make 6 figures or have like a 5-figure month was going to be in my business, but it was in the actual job that I had. I love the job. And I go from 5 figures a month to you just up and fire me, like just like that. What? I mean, I had been separated, but now we're really headed to divorce. That's it. The friend whose business I was in, he up and just like,
The thing is,
cut it
you
off.
think you losing something. That's what I heard. You think you losing something. You're not losing nothing. You're gaining everything.
And that's why I say that's what I gotta get.
You think you're losing something by things leaving are the things that will leave, but you're gaining something because the things that you have accumulated came with a price. They came with something. They came with an attachment. So how can you ask God to elevate you, but you don't want to let go and de-weight yourself from the things that came with a price tag that wasn't from God?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
A price tag that wasn't from God.
That's from something else. That wasn't from God.
And I can literally go back and I know what those price tags are. Even just like reflecting, I know what those price tags were.
Yeah.
I know why, what the attachments were. And I know why it's been hard letting them go. But even in that, I realized too that, again, I don't have any control. There is a peace and a lifestyle that I want and I desire.
So let me ask you something.
Yeah, ask me, girl.
Why do you feel like you can't let go? Or why can't the place you was like, oh, I'm trying to get there? What is stopping you from getting there? Like, what is that thing?
It's me.
Okay, but you as in, but it's something with, what is it?
When stopping me from getting to what?
Like the place of like fully surrendering, and if whatever goes, goes.
Fear, just being conditioned to the world, never really knowing of God, but never really knowing God, not trusting myself, not trusting God because I don't trust myself.
Do you feel like if you let it go, you're not going to get it back?
I did. I don't anymore. It's the uncertainty for me.
Uncertainty of like
of what's
next?
On that next, yeah. And I have always been a big achiever. Like I was saying in the episode before, like there's nothing I've ever done that I didn't achieve. But then that trauma that we talked about. So, you know, especially in relationships, I went through a traumatic experience with my second son. And I was like, oh, well, I chose the wrong man. And at that point, it was like I chose the wrong man again because my first son's father, who became my husband, we didn't make it. And truth be told, like I spent a lot of my life not trying to be my mom and ended up being her anyways. Because my mom had 3 children, 2 fathers, and I did not want that for my life. I didn't say anything was wrong with it. I just didn't want it for my life. And I just knew I was going to have me a husband. I wanted a husband. My mama didn't want one. That's what she told me, though. I think she lied. Anyways, I didn't want that. And here I am.
Yeah.
Here. We're here.
Like, you
Weird.
ain't gonna ever be like this. You be like,
Yeah, I'm a little bit like, okay, all right. But it was almost so it was that. Is that and feeling like, I just made bad decisions. And then my friend had to tell me, she was like, my friend and my therapist, had to tell me, you made the decisions based on the data that you had at the time.
exactly.
And you don't know what would have happened. And then my faith tells me that God allowed for it to happen because it needed to happen. It was necessary for something. Right now, you may not know, but it is for something. Because I do know that when I went through that experience with my second son, it did lead a lot of women to me. Because it put me in a position to now I can connect and relate with them in a way that I couldn't beforehand.
You was able to be relatable.
I was able to be relatable.
Yeah.
And so now it also put me in a situation where people be like, oh, well, it was this sign and that sign. Sometimes you don't know people until you know people, until they do the things at the time. A lot of times you don't know. And so it gave me a very empathetic heart too.
Yeah. And everything was for your good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like even if it didn't feel good,
Yeah.
it still worked out for my good, right? Yeah. And it's like those, it's almost like I used to be like, God, I wish I, oh Lord, forgive me, but
no, say it.
Even down to like, this is when my dad, like, my dad was on drugs like my whole life until I was 25. So my dad got clean 2 years before my mother died. And
wow.
And it's so crazy how that happened was because my mother died. They had like a really, she didn't really like my dad after, stuff, but they was cordial. But on her dying bed, he walked in and she said, hey. And I was like, well, let y'all talk and I'm leave. And, through the conversation now, he told us, he was like, she looked at him, was like, just make sure you take care of my babies. Make sure they're okay. And I really believe that he could not get it right. For 25 years of my life, that man was in and on drugs, this, that, know. But for whatever reason, 2 years before she died, he got it right and has been clean ever since, has been the biggest blessing as my adult life. So I may not have needed him as a child because I had a stepfather, but as an adult, I need him as a woman because he is my father, right?
Yeah.
So when I look at like nothing is wasted, nothing is out of tune. And even when I thought I was making bad decisions, like you just said, like I used to feel like, oh, I'm constantly like messing up. I'm, this and that. I'm always making bad decisions. And I had to tell myself, who told you it was a bad decision?
Ooh.
Who told you that? Who gave you the input that was a bad decision? Like, you said someone, you made a decision based on the information that you had. But who was it said that it was a bad decision? You did it based on what you had at the time.
Right.
So now I don't look at it being a bad decision. What I knew at the time is why I made those decisions. When I know better, I do better. That frees me, that gives myself grace, and I'm not beating myself down for something I perceive to be a bad decision.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So I think I just even had to look at my decision making differently. It was like, who told you that was a bad decision?
Yeah.
Like someone, said something to me yesterday, because I had a tendency of like canceling things. And she was like, basically like, she told another friend, was like, well, she always cancels. And, we having a conversation. Long story short, I said, here's the thing. We change every single day. So you can't hold me to my past. I appreciate it that you don't look at me that way.
Yeah.
Because who I was yesterday, who I was 6 months ago, I'm not that person anymore. And she was like, well, I think a person has to show up consistently for that to get out of the person's head. No, they don't. I don't have to do that. You need it for yourself. Because see, now in my life, I don't have to be conditioned to what you need from me. I'm not that person no more. And if you need evidence, that's something for you to figure out. But I'm not going to tiptoe and dance to keep showing up consistently for you to feel safe when I've already felt safe within myself and I'm not that person. Because again, what does Christ say? We are new creations in him. So that's something you got to deal with. Yeah. But again, people get in their mind. Even when I thought about my dad, he kept feeling like he had to do something for us to accept him. But at the end of the day, if he decided he changed, you don't have to do anything to me. You don't have to keep trying to show up and show me that you've changed. I just have to be able to accept you for who you are now. And if you say you change, I have to believe it and move forward. But sometimes I think we want to hold people to these standards that make us feel good because we need to go still do healing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, stop holding people, on these, to these things like, oh, you got to make me feel like this. No, they don't. You
Yeah.
need to go get your own healing. Nobody has to keep tiptoeing and doing all this stuff to make you feel whole. Like, so it's always just an interesting thing when it comes to certain things like that. But yeah.
Girl, yeah. So listen, we're gonna wrap this one episode up. We
Okay.
need a part 2.
This was
And
good.
this was really good. How you feel about a part 2?
I think we do. Yeah. This is because it's so much. I think it's just. And we
gotta
just
keep
scratched the
going.
surface,
Right. I
right?
gotta
So
keep going.
absolutely.
So listen, you guys, if you enjoyed this episode, stay tuned to part 2 because we got a lot more to discuss. Listen still, and we might have to do part 3, part 4. Listen, we don't know. We letting the Lord lead us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor. Go ahead, click that red button. Make sure that you join the house party. Share this episode out. Go and follow Fhi. Fhi, where can they follow you?
You can follow me at Fhonia Ellis. It's FHONIAELLIS.
All right, and we'll also have that in the description. But until part 2, y'all stay tuned, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.
Peace out.